What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel as well as another video. This video is going to make episode 8 in our FXRT clone build, and this is going to be the starts of the assembly process. We have a lot of stuff to start bolting onto this thing, but we got a few things that we got to take care of before we can actually do that. One of the first things that we have to do is we got to lengthen these wires here. We have wires that are just not going to make it. We knew this once we bolted the risers on. It would add the extra height and take away from the length that's required to get down to this plug here, down in here. So we're going to have to add some wiring there. Once we do that, then we can start bolting on the air cleaner. We can get that Bassani exhaust on here and fire it off once we put the tank on, and make sure that everything is still cool. It should be, but we never know. So let me get set up here, and we're going to start lengthening the wires. Obviously, I'm just going to take this thing off because it'd be a lot harder to do it with it on the bike. And we have the table set up over there, so we should be good there. So, all right, let me get set up, and let's do this. All right, now that this is off, I start looking at these wires here. We have a bunch of different wires, multiple different colors. Now, obviously, I don't have every single color here to match up completely, so some of these are gonna have to kind of be mismatched. But I'm gonna try to yellow with yellow, green with green. Probably have to do red with the orange and what have you. But anyway, once it's all back together, no one's gonna know the difference. I'll just create a little legend down here on the table. I'll write what I've connected each one to, so that I know that they're gonna go to the correct spot, and get these things wrapped back up, and try to get this thing back on the bike. So, all right, let's do this. All right, so we got one wire successfully lengthened. We got one down, 11 more to go. All right, let me get this done, and I'll get back to you as soon as it's finished. All right, so 11 wires later, here's where we're at. We have a nice lengthened harness here. Just gonna run all the way down, clip right into there, so we should be good there. I did have it plugged in, and I double checked the left and the right operation. It does seem like it's gonna be enough wire to make it work. So on to the next thing. That is going to be to install this air cleaner. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and let's get this thing on. And we got an air cleaner. I might make a little executive decision here. I'm not too crazy about the chrome-ish mesh in there, so that might get flat blacked. I don't know. It's growing on me, but I think it would possibly look better with some flat black paint on it. So we might do that. I don't know. But anyway, on to the next thing. Next thing is going to be the exhaust. I get this thing out of the box, start getting it bolted on, and we'll be one step closer to firing this thing off and making sure that everything's good. All right, let's do it. All right, we're gonna take a little detour because I started bolting these head pipes up, and then I got ready to start sliding the muffler on, and I thought to myself, I was like, well, this hits real close to where this bolt is. I still have to pull these shocks back off in order to put those painted pieces back on here and then put the shock back on. And then I thought to myself again, boy, this stuff is pretty ugly right here. I don't like the looks of this. So I think what I'm going to do is pop the shocks off real quick. I'm going to go through, I'm going to scuff these up. I'm going to rattle can them just like a flat black so they don't really show anymore. Then I'm going to slide these shocks back on, and then we're going to continue on with this exhaust because, yeah, that would be really sketchy. And being that the exhaust is this really nice flat black, I really don't want to run the risk of messing anything up. So me get set up here. We're gonna fix this, finish it off, and then the nice part is this will all be done. I won't even have to worry about it again. We'll be all set. So, all right, let's do it. Just an extra couple minutes and it makes all the difference in the world. I do have these lightly taped in place here just because, you know, they're loose when they're not attached. So last thing I want to do is see something get scratched. But dulling that out and making it look like part of the bike, that's great. It doesn't have that bright in-your-face aluminum look. So we're good there. All right, let the party commence. Back onto the exhaust. And we now have an exhaust on. Man, that thing looks dope. I love it. Now that I see the exhaust in place, I'm definitely painting that screen black. It has to go black. I don't like it at all. But I gotta say, exhaust, it fit on really tight. I had to stretch that thing to get her on there. It really was a fight. But it looks good, and we're ready to move on to the next thing. So yeah, I'm going to take a quick detour here, paint this screen, pop it back in, and then I think it's going to be time to set the tank in place, pour some gas in this thing, hook the battery up, and let's get her fired off. All right, let's do this. Much better. Much better. I mean, I know that screen was cool looking, but I don't know. With that exhaust, it just didn't play off it the right way. I think the flat black looks a lot better. All right, so that detour is done. On to the gas tank. Let's do this. Okay, so we have some gas in it. Looks like probably about a quarter of a tank. I didn't want to put too much in there just because, you know, leaks possibly. Everything looks good. Crossover line seems decent. We don't have many leaks. So I would say, I think it's time to fire this thing off. All right, let's do it. Fingers crossed. Well, we got a runner. That's good. Fired right off. I mean, you gotta love fuel injection, right? I do want to go through, and I didn't hear any real leaks or anything, but I do want to double check the bolts. I want to get those, make sure those are torqued tight. And I do want to wipe down this exhaust because they were pretty explicit in the instructions on making sure that you wiped this down with some sort of a wax and grease remover to get rid of anything that might have been on there from shipping so it doesn't stain. I don't really think it would necessarily have an issue with the flat black, but maybe the tip or what have you. So we'll just try to take care of that. But man, oh man, this thing sounds good. Very, very good. Super happy. All right, next up is going to be, we do have to tackle this fairing. However, I do have a couple little trinket things that I wanted to start sticking on there, so maybe I'll slap that belt guard on and start moving forward from there. But yeah, perfect. Awesome. All right, on to the next thing. Let's do this. And the belt guard is on. Man, that thing looks beautiful. It's almost a shame this thing's going to be covered up by saddlebags and you're not really going to see it because it came out absolutely amazing. Piece of glass. All right, so we're going to have to take a short detour again. I was getting ready to put this, get ready to put the fairing on, and then I realized I had blacked these out before I went to paint them, but after hanging them and painting them, they were blacked out. Got a lot of fingerprints and stuff in there, but the back sides of them are now gray from the paint, so you're going to see that. You'll see that really badly when you're on the bike, and that's just not going to, it's not going to look right. So I got to go through, tape this off real quick, and re-black the inside of this so it looks fresh. And the other thing, too, is this right here. I meant to do this before I painted. I was going to kind of two-tone this thing, if you will. I was going to black this all out and then, you know, paint the gray and then clear everything. But I forgot about it. So I think what I'm going to do here is tape off to this inside edge right here. Tape all that off, scuff this, and I'm going to flat black it. The reason I'm going to do that is because once the light goes in there and the cover goes over the top, you're going to see all this gray, and it's just not going to look right. I think it's going to look a lot better if I black this out, and then that cover goes on, and the light's recessed in there. It'll just make everything look that much nicer. So, real quick detour here, and get this thing taped up and ready to spray. We'll black it out and see what it looks like. All right, let's do it. Well, it was a little bit of extra work, but I would say it's definitely worth it. That's going to make this look a whole lot better. Can't see any of that gray. And then if you flip around the other side, this is all now blacked out and looking far better than it did before. Same thing with these. It just changes the whole look of everything, and now you won't see any of that gray shining through. All right, well, we're on to some of the next stuff here. All right, so before I can set this fairing into place, we need to get this mess situated. We have wiring here that we have to fix. I don't want to say fix, but we have to kind of reconfigure. If you remember, this bike had apes on it, so the wires were lengthened, obviously, so that everything would work correctly with the gigantic handlebars. I mean, we are still kind of up there, but definitely not as high as it was before. So I'm going to have to start routing some of this and making sure everything is where it needs to be, because once this is put into place, yeah, you really can't do anything. So I'm going to do a final tightening of these bolts here and make sure everything's good to go there. I got to try to figure a way to, this is a longer clutch cable. I'm going to have to try to figure a way to hide that. I think I might kind of come through here, but I want to get everything mounted onto the bars. I want everything ready to go so that it's just a matter of popping that fairing into place and then wiring up the headlight. Now, the other thing that I have to fix, and this will be another detour, is I cannot leave that like that. That just cannot Can't look like that. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to pop this lever off. I'll go through and clean this up with a wire brush and just kind of set it up and rattle can it, make it look a little bit better. I got to get all this flaking off of here, all this pitting and stuff. That's all got to go. I'm going to clean it up. I'm not going to crack the system. I don't want to get into bleeding brakes. I don't want to do any of that because everything worked fine on this bike. So I'm just going to kind of go through, tape up what I need to tape up, and just throw a nice quick trim black coat on there so that it looks decent. And then once we have everything all situated and all this stuff is mounted, then it'll be time to pop that thing into place. So, all right, let me get set up here and let's start doing this. Looks like we're going to be all set with this. This came out pretty good. Paint's a little, iffy here and there. A couple little spots where I got some fingerprints in there, and that was just because I was impatient and didn't wait for it to dry. Another thing that you didn't see, we did this off camera, was we slid the grips in place. I got those on. Learned a little trick from a friend there with some hairspray, of all things, in order to get those things to go on, slide on, and then stick into place, and worked really well. The only bad part is we have to use the original throttle, right? So the original grip, but all the outer part of the grip had to come off. So we had to cut all that off there in order to get it shaved down enough to get this thing to sit over top of it. That involved, again, off camera, a lot of work, a lot of cutting, a lot of peeling, a lot of swearing, a lot of good stuff. But it's in place. Everything is operational and we're good to go there. So the next thing we have to do is now figure out this headlight. So the headlight, if you remember right, is an integrated headlight. So we have our blinkers are going to be on the inside the light itself. It comes with this connector here. So this connector here does not jive with this connector here. So I'm going to have to do a little chop action here. We're going to cut that back, splice the wires in, figure out exactly what goes to what. And then we should be well on our way to finally setting that thing in place. But again, before we do that, got to do this. So let me get going on this and we'll see what we got. Well, after much testing and probing and checking for wires, I think I got this figured out. So we cut off the original harness, the plug off the end of that, and these 4 wires right here, 3 of them travel through this plug. The 4th wire is the daytime running light wire, so that goes directly into there. That goes to these 2 guys right here that run when the low beam is on. And then we have these 2 corresponding wires right here, which travel back into the blinkers, the directionals. I did go through and kind of just set the taillight in place here and hooked it up real quick just to make sure that the whole system was working. And when I kicked it on, I got that good old Harley Hyper Flash. So I had some resistors kicking around from when I did the LED conversion on this bike. Went to go wire one of those in just to kind of double check it and make sure it was going to be the right resistance, and it is not. It's not really working correctly. So I went to step number 2 and I scavenged the load resistor out of my bike real quick and plugged it in line right here. to double check and make sure that everything is working, and it is in fact working. So let me kick the key on here, show you what we got. So on a low beam setting, we have our, like I said, our 2 daytime running lights, and our low beam is working there. Once we switch to high beam, those 2 DRLs go out and the high beam kicks on, which is exactly what we're looking for. Our taillight's working in the back too as well, so that's good. Hopefully this shows up on camera. I do know that there's some issues sometimes with LEDs, but just to give you an idea, if we put the left blinker on, this one's actually going to flash because the way you're looking at the light on the table. But there's our left blinker and no hyper flash. And our right blinker, no hyper flash. So that's a good thing. And it's working the exact same way on this taillight here in the back as well. So I have ordered a inline resistor for this thing because I'd probably have just as much money into trying to get the correct ones of these as I would to just buy this plug and play unit and be done with it. So that's where we're at there. That'll be in a couple of days, thanks to Amazon. And that just kind of wraps this whole thing up right now. So now we can move on to starting to mount this fairing onto the bike. So let's start seeing what we can get done here. All right, let's do it. Looks pretty good. Pretty happy with the fitment. Everything is just kind of hand tightened. I got to go back down through all the bolts and just kind of torque them down and get them all set finally. Yeah, it's fitting nice and tight. It was a little bit of a struggle to get stuff to kind of slide back into its original position, but we got it. So I think the next thing is once I torque down everything, I'll go through, we'll put this headlight in, maybe even do the windshield, get that all set, and then just kind of work our way from the front to the back of the bike. So, all right, let's do this. Good to go on a headlight. We are all set. Went through and did some trim black on the ring that came with this. It came through in a crappy galvanized coating. It looked really terrible, so flattened it right out. Looks pretty nice, kind of disappears in there. The only thing I am waiting on currently now is that outer trim ring that goes on there. I did order that. We ordered it in chrome, and I think more or less just to kind of break it up. I mean, there's a whole lot of black going on in there, and if you had just blacked it out completely, I think it would have looked a little funky. So the chrome trim ring should set everything off. Once I get that, then we can slap this plexiglass cover over the top and the headlight will be buttoned up. But for right now, it's good to go. On to the next thing, which is going to be this windshield. I have all the hardware for that. So let's go ahead and stick that on and see what that looks like. All right, let's do it. And the shield is on. I gotta tell you, so this thing came through from the factory with these funky black spikes to go on here, and I'm just not a spike kind of guy. So I opted for screws. And the only problem is these rubber washers that I found, as they tighten up, they tend to kind of curl out a little bit, and they don't exactly look 100% correct. So I think I'm gonna go look for something else in the meantime, but for right now the shield is on, and I gotta tell ya, not bad. You look at the top of that thing and it just barely sticks out over it. So I think we're in good shape. I really like the way this looks. All right, next is gonna be to throw on the front fender. So we'll get that thing up and over the forks there and back into place. Let's do it. With the front fender in place, I think we are well on our way to starting to install this rear fender and then try to get these bags situated. Rear fender is going to take a little bit of work before I'm ready to actually put that on. I have to reattach the harness, so it's going to need to be retaped to the bottom of the fender. And then as I was looking through my little box of trinkets and all of my parts, I'm noticing we are going to use obviously that new taillight, but the bezel itself is chrome, and with everything else on this bike kind of going black and minimal chrome, I think I'm going to paint that. I think I'm going to shoot that thing so that it's got a nice semi-gloss to it so that it'll kind of match the brackets and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done and start assembling this fender, putting all the little pieces back on it, and then we'll get it back on the bike, see what it looks like. So all right, let's get her done. Okay, stuff is coming along. This looks much better, way better than chrome ever would. I have some hardware. I made a quick trip to the hardware store. I got some hardware that's being painted currently. I did test fit one of these brackets on here, and I did have some stainless that I was going to use. However, the stainless that I had was not long enough to make it all the way through the bar and out the other side into this bracket right here that holds the fender on. So had to get some longer stuff. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any chrome cap screws, but I did find some bolts that we can paint up and kind of make them look pretty good. The other thing I did find too is I went through and at the hardware store I found some domed metal basically sealing washers, I guess you'd call them, and they have a nice rubber, thick rubber on the back, and they are very, very strong. So those will be replacing what is currently right here, because these rubber washers, although decent, they are squishing out and they don't really sit right in the hole. I don't like the looks of them. So currently these are being painted as well, and those will go in place of that. So all right, while this stuff is drying here, I'll get ready to set this fender up into place and start bolting her down. All right, let's go. Well, that wasn't nerve-wracking in the slightest. Jeez, trying to fit that thing in by myself, no help, holding things and trying not to scratch things. Yeah, so it's basically held in by 2 bolts right now, very loosely. I'm gonna grab my other hardware here and we're gonna start mocking up some of this stuff. I think what I'll do is just switch 1 bolt to the other side, grab my good hardware, and we'll start mocking this, or I shouldn't say mocking, finally installing this bracket. So we'll do one side at a time, get them in there, and hopefully everything goes swimmingly, but it looks pretty freaking awesome. I really dig the color combo. This thing is gonna look super nice. All right, let's do this. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Next up, I think we're going to do these bags. I'll try to get these things in here. This will be the telltale sign, because I lined them up good when I drilled them, when I drilled the new holes, but I'm not 100% sure because they've never been trial fit to the bracket. So let's roll the dice, shall we? Let's do it. Absolutely sick. They went right in. They lined up perfectly. They don't rub anywhere either. There's plenty of clearance in between the bars. Everything sits nice. It floats just like I wanted it to. We don't have to worry about any issues with rubbing or anything along that line. They look absolutely awesome. All right. I am going to touch these bolts up, though. These are driving me nuts. I have black paint. I'll just go through. I did the same thing to these bolts even after I painted them. I still touched them up again because I'm picky like that. But yeah, wow, those look great. All right, let me throw this seat on, and geez, I think this thing's going to be about time to get it off the stand, go through everything one last final time, and take it for a shakedown. All right, let's throw a seat on, shall we? That seat looks awesome. I really like the way this thing looks. It fits the bike. It looks correct. Flows really nicely. It's going to work great. All right, so I went through and cleaned up the garage. I took the bike off of the red lift, and I got it held up with this little blue lift here just to hold it straight so that we can kind of work on some of the final things that we need to do to this thing in order to complete it. The harness did show up, so we have that. That'll take care of our hyper flash issue, so that needs to be installed. I have a brand new set of mirrors that need to go on. And we also have these washers here. They're all painted up and ready to go to replace the washers that are right here. I am still waiting on the trim ring. That's supposed to show up this morning, so hopefully if that does, I can get that installed. Then I'm going to need to go through the entire bike and just give it a quick once-over as far as torquing down stuff, making sure all the bolts are where they need to be and they're not loose. Once that's completed, this thing will go for a nice little shakedown run. We'll make sure that everything is working the way it should. And then we'll go ahead and give it the cleaning and polishing of a lifetime. So, all right, let me get set up here and let's knock some of this stuff out. Well, that's a night and day difference. These things they grab so much better than the other ones did, and there is no curling like this. So I'm going to go through here, finish up all the rest of these, and get back to you when I get it done. All right, that looks so much better. These washers, I think, are going to be a little bit more functional than those fully rubber ones where I made sure that I didn't torque them down too crazy because if we did, it starts to bow and then the shield's going to kind of bubble out and then it won't look as good. So it's in there secure. It's not going anywhere. And actually, while I was doing that, guess what showed up? We have our trim ring. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to pull this whole housing right out of here because it's going to be far easier to do it on a bench than it is on the bike. There's a clip that has to slide into this piece here, and then we have this little tab down here in the bottom. I'm going to have to kind of manipulate that up a little bit so that we can then get a screw to go up in through there and do it without scratching any of this paint. Should be fun, but I guess I'm up for the challenge. All right, let me go ahead and get this thing off the bike, hopefully for the last time, and see what we can get done. Man, that looks great. Came out just like I thought it would. All right, well, I think it's going to be time to throw some gasoline in this thing. Take it for a little bit of a ride here. Make sure we have no issues. And then get it back here and give it a nice cleanup. And yeah, that should do it. All right, wish me luck. Just got back from a nice little shakedown run. We did, let's see, 65.5 miles. Nothing fell off, which is good. It didn't leave me stranded on the side of the road anywhere. Ran really, really well. It's pretty much good to go. It needs a good cleaning. But before that, I would say that she's officially earned herself one of these somewhere on the bike. So we got to do that. So let's do it. You've officially been pimped. And with that, that's going to bring this video, as well as this build, to a close. Hey, I just want to thank you guys for sticking around and watch this thing come to completion. It was a blast building it, and I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed building it. We've got about 200 miles or so on the bike since the build was complete, and I gotta tell you, this thing goes down the road super smooth, plenty of power, and it gets a lot of looks. And incidentally, the bike is for sale. So if you might be interested in purchasing it, I will put an email address in the description where you can inquire about possibly owning this thing for yourself. We're also in the process of looking for the next build, so there'll be more videos coming out really, really soon. You don't want to miss any of those, so make sure you give me that thumbs up, subscribe, as well as hit the bell for notifications. Hey, as always, keep the shiny side up, and I'll see you guys all on the next video.